Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm David Field. It's a pleasure to welcome you to this memorial for Dr. Muhunthan. I'm hoping that as we talk that we can have in our minds our memories and happy thoughts of our interaction with Professor Muhunthan throughout the years. I know many of us are former students or colleagues and friends. Some are here from industry who have worked and interacted with Muhunthan. And welcome to everybody that's here, and also to all those who are participating online on the YouTube stream of this event. Many family members and other friends and those who are from afar are participating through YouTube. It's my unfortunate honor to offer the eulogy, and we can start with that, and then I can announce the program. Dr. Balasingham Muhunthan passed away June 17th at Sacred Heart Medical Center in Spokane. Muhunthan was born September 8th, 1961, in Point Pedro, Sri Lanka, to Ponaya Balasingham and Sivagama Sundari Sathasivam. He is the eldest of 5 children and is survived by his sisters, Yohini, Nirmala, Vijayarani, and his brother Thevan and his parents. Muhunthan finished primary school at Hartley College in Point Pedro before attending the University of Peradeniya in Kandy, Sri Lanka. He met Kalyani Wickramage in 1984 while at Peradeniya, and they were married in Colombo, Sri Lanka before moving to West Lafayette, Indiana in 1988. He earned his master's degree in geotechnical engineering and his PhD in civil engineering from Purdue University. Muhunthan and Kalyani then moved to Pullman, Washington in 1991, when he accepted a position as assistant professor of civil and environmental engineering at Washington State University. Muhunthan and his family loved to travel across the U.S. as well as internationally. He was a lifelong learner who delighted in using his diverse experiences to connect with and help other people. Outside of work, Muhunthan enjoyed discussing and playing all manner of sports and was known to outplay students half his age, or I should add his same age, on the racquetball court. He firmly believed in the power of education to transform lives and kept this ideal at the forefront of his work as professor and chair. He was appointed as department chair of civil engineering, civil and environmental engineering at WSU in 2012. And this was the same year that I was asked to be an interim director in mechanical engineering, mechanical and materials engineering. And so we were able to attend the training for new department chairs together, which we did every other week. And we had many philosophical discussions about leadership and what it would take to succeed at WSU. And he had a strong belief in servant leadership. And I know many of you who worked with him recognized that he was a people person who was trying to help others succeed, and he would go out of his way at all costs almost to help other people succeed. As most of you know, most of us didn't realize that he was very sick. And just a couple of days before he passed away, he was emailing about cost share, making sure things were in order, commitments from the college were in order for various centers, and making sure that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing to make sure his people were successful. And I've heard some of the same from others, that he was communicating with you right up, I'm sure, while he was in his hospital bed doing that. An example of great strength and great compassion. And he will be dearly missed as a colleague and as a friend. Okay, for the program, we will hear next from our dean, Mary Rizak. And then there will be we will hear from his daughters, Vishaka Muhunthan and Priyanka. After Priyanka, there will be 2 video tributes that will be played, one from Arulan, his cousin, and one from Prabha, who is a good friend and associate at Purdue University, where he went to graduate school. After the video tributes, we will hear from our former dean, Candace Claiborne, and a former chair of Civil and Environmental Engineering, Rafiq Itani. And then we will hear from Bill Kofer, who has recently retired from the department, and Haifeng Wen. And we'll go to that point of the program. Mary.
Thank you, Dave. And thank you all for joining us today to celebrate the life of our friend and our colleague, Professor Muhunthan. Muhunthan was a valued member of the Boylan College and of the WSU community since 1991. During those 30 years, he taught thousands of students. He interacted with hundreds of alumni and corporate partners. He hired dozens of faculty and staff, and he mentored more than 50 graduate students. The impact of his work will be long-lasting, and we get a sense of it just by the number and diversity of people that have come to join us today. Muhunthan built an illustrious career that spanned more than 3 decades. He published more than 150 journal articles and served as a visiting professor at Georgia Tech, where I also worked for a while, but he got there before me in that one too, as well as at Cambridge and the University of Auckland and at Shandong University. He was the founding director of the Washington Center for X-ray Computed Tomography, the director for the Washington Center for Asphalt Technology, and director of the Washington State Department of Transportation Research. His research contributions were extensive, and they included multi-scale modeling of materials and geomechanics, as well as bio-inspired materials. He received several national and international awards for these activities, but I think he was also very proud of the awards he received locally. He received all of the top awards in the department for outstanding teaching, for outstanding research, and his overall contributions as being recognized as the Leon Luck Most Effective Faculty Member. As Dave said, he was active in research throughout his career, and I was the one that forwarded the cost-sharing request to Dave. 2 days before he passed, it came to me. He got the matching funds, and now we wait to see if the project will be funded and how we will use those resources to support another student and another faculty colleague. He never stopped thinking about how to help others. Most recently, Muhunthan served as chair of the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department, one of the university's largest and most research-active academic departments. During his decade-long tenure as chair, he oversaw the department's growth and success in research areas that included transportation, air and water quality, geotechnical engineering, infrastructure, and sustainability. I think that civil and environmental engineering department heads requires tremendous finesse and skill to help align all of those disparate groups through shared goals and successes. Muhunthan understood that, and he worked tirelessly to create an environment in which excellence was not only possible, but common and celebrated. He found ways through cajoling and motivating and persisting to work to unite the civil and environmental engineering community into a department rather than a confederation of subtopical groups. I was able to watch this progress firsthand, and it's clear to me that the impact of that work is going to be felt for decades to come. One striking and visual accomplishment of which Muhunthan was immensely proud was the faculty members that he was able to hire over the course of the past decade. Coupled with the strong cadre of senior faculty members whom they joined, the department now has one of the most successful and gender-diverse faculties in the college. There's sociology research that shows that if you're going to bring a female faculty member into a cohort that's predominantly male, that you have to hire 4, right? Because when you hire fewer than 4, they're often confused with each other, even if they look or act nothing alike. By hiring this group of talented and dedicated young women, Muhunthan lifted the mantle of representing their entire gender from their shoulders and provided each an opportunity that had been afforded to their male colleagues. Be yourself and be successful. When I came to WSU 4 years ago, Muhunthan was one of the first people that I met and one of the first to offer his support in my transition for this new role. He helped me understand WSU ways, the history that may well be influencing the thinking and decision-making of faculty and university administrators, and how to translate WSU speak into English. And for those of you that don't know WSU speak, I offer EBB-PBL certification and more. But first I had to figure out how to translate Muhunthan speak, correct? Muhunthan's mannerism of adding correct to the end of every declarative statement threw me for a while. Did he really want me to confirm that he was correct? Or was he simply trying to make the statements less declarative and more collaborative? I'm not sure I ever quite figured it out, and I'm not sure that there was any intention behind it. I suspect it was just comforting occasionally to hear that you were indeed correct. Muhunthan served as a friend, as a counselor, and a mentor for me, as he had done for so many before me and so many that came after. I will miss his candor, his humor, and his ability to help us remember that while the issues we're facing today are incredibly important, those issues are balanced with things beyond our professional career, with the concerns of our families and our communities. He was my colleague and my friend, and I will miss him.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vishaka Muhunthan. Thank you all for being here today, both in person and virtually. We truly cannot thank you enough for the food and flowers you've sent, the thoughts and memories you've shared, and your steadfast support. A very big thank you as well to the Voiland College of Engineering and Architecture for organizing this event. I know most of you from my dad's earliest days at the college. My sister and I were excited guests at department Christmas parties, thrilled by the gift exchange, and whichever faculty member was game enough to dress up as Santa Claus. We loved spending time with you at the various barbecues and potlucks at parks and houses all around Pullman. My sister and I visited the department to sell magazines, chocolates, and pastries for many school fundraising events. We were usually the top earners in our class, thanks to the good money we swindled from many of you. My sister and I also spent countless hours in my dad's office, combing for change in his drawers so that we could run up to the vending machines and pick out a snack. I don't think the candy selections ever changed during our time there, but we would be sure to visit the machines in both Sloan and Dana just to be sure. My dad was keen to make sure my sister and I were ahead in our studies, and I distinctly remember being very proud to tell my math teacher in elementary school that I already knew how to divide fractions because my dad had already taught me. Back in the days of bookstores, my dad would spend hours researching the best workbooks to improve our math, writing, and reading skills. I will never forget the front cover of one of those math books, which featured a ridiculous-looking rabbit in glasses typing away on a calculator. That accountant bunny helped me learn my multiplication tables cold. My dad was equally serious about taking breaks. He constantly told us to work hard, but always make time to enjoy life too. It was his motto. My dad, in addition to being a very bright student, was an excellent sportsman. His first loves in Sri Lanka were cricket and soccer. He was a gifted bowler and a terrific striker. but he was athletic enough to be good at almost anything we tried. Back in the day, there was a group of faculty and students who would regularly play racquetball together, and while the initial fun was mostly in watching my dad win and returning errant racquetballs that flew into our viewing area, I eventually picked up a racket myself and got good enough to beat him a few times. Those of you who have stepped onto a racquetball court with my dad know just how big a feat this is. Our weekends were filled with trips to Spokane, the Moscow Farmers Market, random excursions to rural parts of Idaho to pick blueberries and huckleberries, or a lookout spot that he had heard about from someone in the department and just couldn't wait to take us. On Fridays after work, he would usually take my sister and me to the old Safeway to pick out movies he thought we might enjoy. In the winters, we would drive around parts of rural Moscow in search of the best hills for sledding in the morning and around Pullman to see the Christmas decorations at night. My dad lived to make us happy. He was tremendously generous and dutiful to his core, and every thought and action was in the service of others. Most important on the list of people he cared about is my mom. He was eternally dedicated to her happiness and comfort, and I cannot tell you how much he lived for spoiling my mom. When he was a broke graduate student, this meant saving up to buy her $12 curtains for the living room. Later on, it was supporting and even tutoring her through a bachelor's in microbiology. And most recently, it meant a 3-story house in Sri Lanka. My mom told us a story about the first time she and my dad were apart after spending nearly every waking moment together. She had to travel to Sri Lanka when my dad stayed behind, no doubt working late hours in the office to obtain his professorship. He said he felt lonely, so he set off to do the things they normally did together. He went to the mall to buy her a welcome home watch, picked up a sandwich, and drove to Hawaii Park. Apparently, he ate the sandwich in the car because he saw a sign that had a warning about rattlesnakes. When he picked her up, my dad told her that he felt lost in the world without her. That is the most poignant way to describe how we feel now. I have lost my biggest champion in life. He has shown me unwavering support, infinite patience, and an all-encompassing dedication to my happiness and success. My dad drove me to every single piano recital and competition, regardless of how early in the morning. I would usually snooze in the car and wake up to NPR on the radio, our favorite radio station. A hot tea and breakfast on the dashboard, and my performance dress neatly laid out in the back seat for when I was finished eating. He visited me frequently when I was in Los Angeles and Seattle, showing up in a rental car with what he liked to call a Santa Claus mood, to buy whatever supplies and food I needed, in addition to some spur-of-the-moment items just to spoil me. No matter how far apart we were, he had the truly rare talent of making me feel fully loved, completely supported, and never alone. Whether it be sending random recipe links he thought I would enjoy cooking, or articles he came across that were relevant to my research at the time, or just a funny, kind of stalkerish picture of my mom feeding squirrels on the deck with the caption, "When will my food be served?" My dad was warm and incredibly witty, and he always made me feel that he was thinking of me and wishing the best for me. He was my backbone in every endeavor, and I owe all my successes, past and future, entirely to him. A very unknown fact about my dad is that he had an amazing voice. Honestly, it was as good as the singers in the Tamil movies he loved to watch with us. He was constantly whistling or singing snippets of his favorite songs, usually mixing in one of our names in a ridiculous but infectiously endearing way. Our lives will be unbearably quiet without his wonderful voice. I don't think I will truly understand the world in which his brightness does not exist, and there will never be a day that I don't wish he were here to offer me calm reassurance that we can work through anything together. Wise advice, a funny anecdote, or just that wonderfully warm smile. My dad was a fast thinker, a great problem solver, an exceedingly patient and level-headed leader, and an exceptional teacher. He had a profoundly good heart and a very kind soul. But it was his innocent joy and enthusiasm for interacting with the world that made him so utterly charming. When he was 2 years old, a local sage in his village proclaimed him as Pachakalan, which means stealer of hearts in Tamil. My dad was extremely humble, but he would happily recount this story to describe how much his friends, colleagues, relatives, and even strangers liked him. I cannot tell you how much peace it brings me knowing that he knew exactly how well loved he was. My dad built the most beautiful life for my mother, sister, and me, and while we are absolutely devastated that we do not get to enjoy more of it with him, I think we can draw incredible strength from knowing how fully he lived every single day of his life. In the pursuit of knowledge, he worked tirelessly and with complete dedication. In finding balance, he made sure to forge memories with good humor and fun. In love and support of others, my dad always sought out to encourage and nurture those around him. He stole our hearts well enough to last a lifetime. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you all for being here today. My name is Priyanka. Most of you will know me as the shy one in the family, but my dad was too great and good a father for me to be quiet today. My dad was the best. I know that almost every child must think that about their dad, but it's true. My dad had unlimited patience, an infectious energy, and a kind heart. It is surely impossible to capture the greatness of someone so much larger than life, but I'd like to share with you 3 stories today that I think highlight how cheerful, tireless, and special he truly was. My dad was the best teacher I have ever known. I chose to study mechanical engineering in college, and those classes were often tough. Most professors will tell you that there is no dumb question, but I've met a few who will still secretly judge you if you ask one. That wasn't my dad. After the reality check of a poor midterm and long before Zoom, 9 p.m. to midnight over Skype at least twice a week became office hours with my dad. It didn't matter how much work he had to do, how tired he was, or what flight he had to catch the next day. He was always there to help me with a whiteboard, neatly written lecture notes, and 10 other resources for extra reading and practice. My dad had the hallmark of a great teacher. He could take the most complicated topic and explain it in such a simple and intuitive manner, mixing in jokes and personal references along the way. Fourier transforms, partial differential equations, fluid mechanics, thermodynamics. He could explain hundreds of topics better than any textbook. He would sometimes have to explain the same concept to me 3 different ways before I finally gained an inkling of what was going on. Learning from him taught me how to remain cool, think clearly, and be unafraid of a challenge when solving problems. Whenever I was frustrated and about to give up, he would calmly say, "Think about it when you go to sleep tonight, and you'll understand it tomorrow." He was usually right. My dad was the same when I later went to graduate school, which can sometimes be an intimidating place. He would send me papers, lectures, and conferences that were relevant to my research, and he would constantly encourage me whenever I had doubts. He always valued education above all else, and that's a principle that I will remember forever. As hard as my dad worked, he was all about balance, and he often achieved this through sports. He believed that running was the best way to come up with solutions to difficult problems. When we were young, he would take my sister and me to the WSU Rec Center and teach us how to play badminton, soccer, shuffleboard, volleyball, and pretty much any other game he thought would be fun. I don't know how many people would agree for 2 hours every Saturday to watch 2 children argue about whether the score was 7-8 or 8-7, or whether that ball was in or out, but my dad did so happily. In addition to playing sports, my dad enjoyed watching them. Watching football and basketball games with my dad on the weekends will forever be one of my favorite activities. On top of his vast engineering knowledge, he somehow also had some of the best commentary and analysis of players and teams that could rival ESPN, and his predictions were usually right. He taught me about great coaches like John Wooden and Nick Saban, great players like Michael Jordan and Barry Sanders, and he would often send me their books on life and leadership, which still help me today. My dad taught me that sports are a mirror of real life, including the joys, the heartbreaks, and the strong work ethic that matters more than both. He would often use championships to emphasize the importance of preparation, execution, and overcoming adversity to win. He liked to share stories of superstar athletes with humble beginnings who hammered their way into the Hall of Fame with hard work, perseverance, and integrity. In many ways, my dad was similar. From a small island in the Indian Ocean, he came to America with nothing, and worked to become everything to help his family. My dad had a zest for life that is rare. You could see it in the way that he approached every day. He truly enjoyed working hard, doing the right thing, helping others, and taking care of his family. No matter whether he was tired or sick, it was a holiday or the weekend, or which time zone he was in, he was always up early in the morning, ready to tackle the day with the same industriousness and enthusiasm. That's another lesson that will stick with me forever. In one of the books my dad gave me, a book by Jim Tressel, the former football coach of Ohio State, the first line asked, "If the game of life ended today, would you be a winner?" For all the obstacles that my dad faced, the character and courage with which he faced them, and the way that he helped anyone in need, my dad is certainly a winner. He's a legend in life's Hall of Fame whose story and memories will never fade. He is a part of me, my sister, and my mom forever. He is a part of every person whose life he made better in some way. My dad is an everlasting ideal and inspiration, the North Star that I will try to follow for the rest of my life. Thank you.
I stand here today to pay tribute to a kind soul, an indulgent heart, and a disciplined mind, the most precious person in my life, my cousin Muhunthan. Our parents, his and mine, are brothers and sisters. My brother was generous, loving, and dedicated to his family. He was always there at the drop of a hat if you needed anything. When I started working as a geotechnical engineer 2 decades ago, I had so many questions on project I was assigned to. Guess what? I would call him up. He would patiently provide answers. My company thought I was the best hire ever. We grew up next to each other, and for as long as I can remember, Muhunthan has always been there for me and the family. Every special memory, every misstep, every success, every wedding, he was there. I'm proud to say I was his pet growing up. I shadowed him everywhere. As I turned the pages of our lives together, I realized he was my strength in more ways than I had thought. He was my brother, my friend, my mentor, and an inspiration. We both attended a few weddings overseas, and he was my roommate. We would talk all night about our childhood memories, our lives, and whose belly has ballooned up more. He loves eating Sri Lankan food. He once visited me when I was at college in Davis. I'm a good cook, so I made some of his favorite dishes. He had few servings, but said with a smile, "You know, Arulan, I ate so much because I was hungry." And he paused for a second and said, "You are an okay cook." We had, a great laugh. My brother loved the game of cricket. He would listen to the cricket commentary all day. Life changes radically, but memories, they don't. And for that, I am eternally grateful. I don't have the words to express quite how heartbroken I am about the loss. And I don't know what life will be like without him in it. But I do know that I have been incredibly lucky to have shared such memories with this incredible person. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Prabhaharan. I live in New Jersey. I met Professor Muhunthan in 1986 at Purdue University. I was finishing up my PhD when he joined Purdue. We shared an apartment for about a year and a half. Even though we both went to the same university in Sri Lanka, I did not meet him in Sri Lanka as I was senior to him. At Purdue, I found him to be very bright and very hardworking. Before we even wake up in the morning, he will be in his office doing his work. He wouldn't watch TV with us. He would tell us it's all waste of time. And he would tell us, if you calculate all the hours you spend watching TV, it'll be about so many years, and you can put that time to good use. He was that kind of person. Even when we have parties or gathering in our apartment, he would stick around for a little and then leave to do his work. As you can see in this photograph, he couldn't wait to leave. I went back to Purdue in 1990 again, and he was still there and doing his work, and I met him in his lab. The same Muhunthan doing good work and working hard. I watched him rise through the ranks at WSU, and I was very proud of him. I'm in the consulting business. I kept in touch with him over the years. I would discuss technical matters with him if I need his advice. He would give me his advice and send me some papers to look at. He visited New Jersey in the last 30 years several times, and I also met him once at Seattle Airport by chance. Even a few months ago, I believe in April, I was talking to him about a long-term settlement problem in sand, and he sent me some papers too, and there was no inkling of what to come at the time. He did not mention anything. It was a total shock to me and to his family as well, I believe. He was a very dedicated son, brother, husband, and father. He will be missed. My condolence to the family. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Kalyani, Vishaka, Priyanka, Viji, Nirmala, and the rest of the Muhunthan family, I'm so profoundly sorry for your loss, for all of our loss. I considered Muhunthan to be one of my closest friends at WSU. We both joined the Faculty of Civil and Environmental Engineering in the fall of 1991, and that year the CEE department hired a pretty large cohort of new faculty, and out of that group, Muhunthan and I were the only two remaining at WSU at the time I retired. I'm sure, in fact, we've already heard that we've heard about Muhunthan's scholarly accomplishments and his stellar professional reputation, which are all very amazing, so I'm not going to talk about those. But I will just say that he was a brilliant researcher. He was also an outstanding teacher and mentor, which we've already heard. And he was an excellent department chair, but you might not ever have even known just how good he was, because humility was one of his finest personal qualities. Compassion was another. Muhunthan was always taking a sincere interest in the people around him, and he looked after his students and later on his faculty and staff when he became the department chair. That quality of genuinely caring about those around you made him a wonderful department chair, and as the dean who hired him, I can say that he is one of the best hires I ever made. I found him to be so empathetic as he mentored new faculty and guided his staff and looked out for the students in CEE. In addition to his compassionate nature, he was also extremely organized, thorough, and decisive. He had a strong sense of what was right and wrong. He was generous with his time, and he was unflappable. It's no wonder that he was so effective at all aspects of his professional life. We remained confidants after I returned to the faculty, and I will always appreciate that he valued my opinions on a variety of topics. I spent a lot of time in his office just chatting, and as a faculty member in CEE, under his chairmanship, I saw firsthand how he worked to ensure that his faculty would not be troubled by the minutiae that tend to accumulate in the academy, allowing those who were just interested in their teaching and research to do their jobs unmolested. Given how productive he was professionally, one might be tempted to think that he did little else but work. But for all his productivity, he took such good care of all his family, some of whom I was fortunate enough to be able to get to know. For example, Viji, his sister, was my graduate student, and we remain close to this day. On his greatest achievement, Kalyani and Muhunthan raised two of the most accomplished young women that I've ever met. I'm going to embarrass you a little bit here. I'm going to brag on you. I recall that Muhunthan invited me to accompany his family for Vishaka's senior piano recital when she was in high school. It was held in the concert hall at the University of Idaho School of Music. Muhunthan had remembered that I had studied piano at the University of Idaho for a couple years before I went into engineering, so he thought I might enjoy attending that recital. What I witnessed was the most accomplished young woman with so much poise and confidence performing an extraordinary piano concerto, or concert. It was just unbelievable. I still have the program to it. There's pieces in there that I just don't even know how yet you did the cat and the mouse. That was amazing. But very few, very rare high school seniors ever accomplish so much in music, and especially if they're pursuing it as an avocation rather than a vocation. Both daughters have gone on to accomplish so much academically, personally, and professionally, with Vishaka earning a bachelor's degree in molecular biology at UCLA, conducting research at the Hutch, and now headed to medical school, and Priyanka earning her bachelor's and master's degrees in mechanical engineering at Stanford, and now she's nearing the end of her PhD program there. Clearly, these extraordinary young women had very strong role models and were so well supported by their parents. Anyway, my heart aches for the Muhunthan family. He left all of us too soon. Kalyani, Vishaka, Priyanka, Viji, and the rest of the family, you must know that Muhunthan will be missed by many, many people. We will all miss his compassionate side, his quiet confidence, his generosity, and his humility. I'll personally also miss his friendship.
I'm Rafiq Itani. I was department chairman, and yes, I'm guilty for hiring Muhunthan. We hired Muhunthan in 1991, as was said, and shortly thereafter, he's graduated from Purdue, and shortly thereafter, he joined as an assistant professor. In the interview process, you can tell a lot of things about people. And in the case of Muhunthan, he was so incredibly prepared. He asked questions, he read all the resumes of the faculty. He's so precise, and he asked the questions about his future in the department, what is expected of him, and it's just to the letter, to the point that you have not, as chair, thought of what he's going to be asking. So he's so incredible. And everybody loved him. I think if I didn't hire him, I would have had a revolt in my hand in the department. Everybody enjoyed meeting him. He loved the enthusiasm, the positiveness about him. He was full of enthusiasm, as was said. He was so helpful to others, particularly, you could see it in the department chair position. He nurtured the new faculty and supported the older faculty as well. I believe hiring Muhunthan was a turning point in civil engineering, in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. He was full of enthusiasm. careful an analyzer. He just analyzes every decisions he makes, every action he makes. What's the impact on others, how it is perceived. So he was careful about that. What I remember from him is in his third month at WSU, he came into me not asking how to ask, not knowing how to ask for travel funds. He said, I have a paper accepted at the geotechnical conference, and I'd like to see if I can go there. But he was so kind of shy about asking. I said, the only problem, he said, is in Hawaii. I said, you didn't decide it to be in Hawaii, did you? But he was careful. He didn't want to be perceived as going on a vacation land. His resume speaks for itself. I mean, as an achievement, that has been pointed out quite well. And in his tenure as a faculty member and as a chair, we developed really friendship. We have a relationship. We were comfortable in joking with each other. And a few years after his appointment, when he was promoted to associate professor, I confided in him that we get external letters for evaluation. And I told him one of the letters said, you have the potential to be one of the top 10 leaders in geotechnical engineering. I couldn't help but interject, are there only 10 people in geotechnical engineering? Anyway, but we had a lot of things. We did the cardinal sin. We discussed politics of Sri Lanka. And so, but we were always on the same side. We thought alike. We had common interests. And I really enjoyed my relationship with Muhunthan. I got to know him and know his wonderful family. I knew his immediate family, and I knew his other family in Sri Lanka that visited Pullman. His father, his sister that went to WSU, and in our meeting, I remember him talking about the importance of family. And he dedicated his life to supporting his family, not only the family in Pullman, but it extended all the way to Sri Lanka, his father, his family, generally, as you saw from the video. Muhunthan was a very private person, as you could see, the way he braved this illness of his. But yet, when I met with him regularly, even after leaving WSU, I used to go over there and talk to him several times. And you discuss a topic with him, he's totally focused on the topic, considering what he's going through. I mean, just a few months ago, he called me up and he says, well, I need your help. I need to build a retaining wall in my yard. I said, well, do you know a good geotechnical engineer to design it? And, but what I found out that he was asking, he was not licensed engineer in Washington. He's licensed in California, but he wants somebody to stamp the design. So he was a lot of fun to have around. I really enjoyed my relationship with him, and I'm sorry about it. I will miss him a lot. Thank you.
I'm Bill Kofer. Muhunthan is the only one I would put on a suit and tie this time of year for. If you compare him and me, I don't know what he does to his hair, but we obviously went in opposite directions with that. I've known Muhunthan for around 30 years. He arrived at WSU shortly after I did, and we worked in similar areas. We had common interests in solid mechanics and computational stuff. His was soil mechanics and foundations, mine was structures. I guess the structures have to stand on something. He was my go-to for questions about geotechnical issues, and I was on the graduate committee of many of his graduate students. He attracted really good students. I liked them all. I learned a lot from them and from him. Thus, we were colleagues for a long time, but our relationship changed when he became chair of the department. I was the associate chair, and that plus 25 cents will get you something, I don't know. It's an unofficial title, but it included oversight of undergraduate issues like accreditation, the curriculum, and advising. He kept me on when he became chair. In that role, we conferred often in his office or mine. His office was a whole lot nicer than mine. But we conferred about all departmental issues, and the conversations tended to stretch into other areas. For example, on Mondays in the fall, we would discuss football. How did the Cougs do? A mutual disdain for UW. For some reason, he liked Alabama. I would just nod and smile. Anything I know about Sri Lanka, I learned from Muhunthan. Things like their history, their education system, and cricket. I do not understand cricket. I understand he was good at it. Don't ask me how that happened, so there you go. There were several students from there that I really enjoyed getting to know. Sometimes they would bring me tea. Best tea in the world, I think. It was good to be on their committees. But other things became apparent from the other conversations. Muhunthan cared deeply about his family. He loved his wife, and he was very proud of his daughters. I heard about their travels and their achievements. Many of those mechanics problems he had passed through me, by the way. He would come in with some very interesting problems from Stanford, and we would look at them together, just to let you know. He cared very deeply about the civil engineering profession, and he was proud to be a part of it. In the same way, he was proud of the department and fiercely protective of it. It was important to him that our graduates represent it well. He cared deeply for the faculty and staff. The staff loved him, by the way, including myself, especially for the newbies, the rookies. He made time to mentor them through things like regularly taking them to coffee one-on-one. He was involved with the advising of the students, and he would show them tough love when it was required. Muhunthan was approachable and likable, but there was more. He knew that I was a Christian, and we occasionally talked about the deep things of life. Muhunthan was more than just an engineer, professor, administrator, and researcher. For me, Muhunthan moved beyond being a colleague to being a comrade. Here's a description of a comrade that I read recently. Comrades are people who know all about you and accept you fully, but also tell you the truths you need to hear. Comrades are also fully committed to their own growth and are vulnerable with you as they want help from you as well as in mutual improvement. There's trust, connection, and reciprocity with comrades. There's humor, understanding, and simply enjoying each other's company. Muhunthan was a comrade to me, and I hopefully to him. I'll miss him.
My name is Haifang Wen. Sorry, I got a little bit allergy, so my voice is a little bit harsh. Sorry about that. So, as other colleague has mentioned, Muhunthan is a truly scholar, mentor, friend. But what I really want to share with you is he's such a fun guy. So I want to share my memories about Muhunthan. So actually, Muhunthan and I spent 13 years together in the department. He's the chair of the committee that hired me. So since then, we always work together. And I remember the day I came to Pullman for house hunting. He took me around the Pullman, and with his that old Toyota minivan, 20 years old something. So once he get in the car, he started telling me, I think there's a mouse in my car. I said, no, you don't. So then the debate keep going for 13 years. Every time we go out for lunch, he typically drive. I like that. And he would start talking about the mouse. I said, no, you don't. We debated for 13 years. And in the end, I said, Muhunthan, you know what? Your car is too old for the mouse to live there. So, but last winter, my theory is broken. That the mouse moved into my old Jeep. So I never told Muhunthan about my theory was broken. So Muhunthan also loves the work. When I was a tenure track faculty, as you all know, you have to work really hard day and night and the weekend. So I stayed in the office a lot. But every time there, Muhunthan worked in his office. I was like, you are a full professor already, why are you here? So he said, oh, I have to work on the student's paper, the thesis, everything. I said, yeah, you probably just get bored at home, come to the office. But later on, when he became the department chair, he worked even harder, beside the department chair's work. He's still doing research, advising students, so it's keep going. So last fall, I asked Muhunthan, I said, Muhunthan, our graduate students, especially in the geo-transportation group, when you really need a graduate student class, you are the only one who can teach that. Can you teach that? Nobody expected the department chair teach the class, So, but he said, sure, So last semester, he taught a graduate student class. And due to the pandemic, everything has been online. So, but I have to say, Muhunthan is not a tech guy. When he type, he uses the finger one by one. So he had to learn all those, online learning, how to write on the tablets. He keep calling me, how do you do this, do that? I know he's working really hard to work out the online teaching, everything. He could have easily say, no, I couldn't do it. And the department chair, you cannot blame him. But, I didn't know he was sick, so I felt pretty bad asking him, last time. But, he's the guy who always do more and more for the department and the colleagues. And Muhunthan also is a family man. I know that. He loves his family, wife, and children. And his office and my office are the same level, on the ground level, salon hall. We often joke it's the basement of the salon. And so the first time I met, the girls is like before they went to the college, I knocked the door on Muhunthan's office. I think the Wasanka's little head stick out. I say, hey, Muhunthan, you look different. So. And then, he always share with me his experience, how to raise kids, educate his daughters, and give me tips. And that time, I don't have kids, so I said, wow, great, you gave me all the tips. And I think in the future, my kids will go to the top school, with all these tips, I can just drink a beer every day. So now I have 2 kids, 5 and 6. I think I need more than those tips from Muhunthan to get them to work well. So, and Muhunthan is just such a down-to-earth guy. You can talk to him anything. He can talk to you anything. Like one time he was like, that was 10 years ago. He said, oh, that coat looks good on you. So I thought it was weird for a guy, comment on the clothes. So I said, Muhunthan, it's not the clothes, it's the person. Muhunthan would be, shut up, So he would can talk anything like this. And I had a briefcase, I used to use it for conference. So he saw that. A couple years later, he bought exactly the same briefcase as mine. I was, giving him a hard time. I said, Muhunthan, do you really have to buy the exact same briefcase as mine? He said, oh, I didn't notice you have a briefcase like mine. How do you like that? So, he's pretty quick, you can tell. So yeah, so I can keep going. All this fun story with Muhunthan. So I know he talks about with me about his family, Kayaka and Vasanka, Priyanka, Kalyani all the time, and he cares you so much. He loves you. I know that, and he will be dearly missed. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody who has been offering memories and tributes. The family has now asked to hear from anybody who would like to share memories in this setting. If you would come up to the podium and offer your thoughts and your memories or your tributes. If there is some lull in the program, we do have a couple of additional videos that we will play. But the family, I know, would really like to hear from any of you who would like to share memories of Muhunthan. So I'll leave the time to you until we decide to perhaps play a video.
Good morning. I'm Indranath Datta. I'm the director of the School of Mechanical and Materials Engineering. I came here in 2008 and met Muhunthan soon after, when our mutual friend Hussein Zubib, who was the director of the School of MME at that time, was the person that hired me. He introduced a Friday afternoon social hour at the old post office. And we used to go there, spend time mainly with people from our school, MME. But Muhunthan, being a very good friend of Hussein, was always invited there. And he was, he used to sit there, and we used to sit and chat. And of course, there was a lot of people. There were like maybe about 10, 15 people there. And, we started chatting, and we started getting close to each other. And then later, when I was associate dean for the college, and he became CE chair, the Civil and Environmental Engineering chair, our interactions and friendships grew. So he used to come to my office, we used to sit and chat, and then once in a while we'd go out for lunch, and we'd exchange both professional and personal thoughts. He was very proud of the accomplishments of his two brilliant daughters, and he used to talk about you guys all the time. And Vishaka, the older one, was a classmate of my younger son, and so I used to hear about her accomplishments. I've been to that piano recital that Candice talked about, and so our friendships grew over time. And it grew further when I stepped into the director's role at the School of Mechanical and Materials Engineering. So he, of course, had done the chair's job in CE, and he would advise me on various different issues. And he became my mentor and my guide, and on numerous occasions advised me on various administrative issues. On a more personal note, I would like to recall that he was the one that introduced me to the idea of depositing funds into the Cougar card so that we can get a discount on our lunch at the cafeteria. I didn't even know about that. So anyway, I learned a lot from him, and I will really miss my friend. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
My name is Sunil Sharma. I used to be a faculty member at University of Idaho. I first met Muhunthan when he came for an interview, because we were both PhDs from Purdue University. And ever since he arrived, we would have lunch maybe 3-4 times a year just to get together and talk. And Muhunthan was absolutely amazing. We would spend maybe 2 hours over a lunch, because all the readings he had done, and from the travels that we both were pretty hectic travel people, we would share all the things that were going around in in the States and overseas. And Muhunthan was very good about the overseas trips. I rarely made those. But to know, we had 28 years really, and I was just telling his wife earlier, the last lunch we had was in December 2019, and then we had the pandemic, and it's just so sad. I was looking forward to getting back now, things opening up, and getting back to our lunches. But Muhunthan was very generous. All these years we would collaborate on our programs, what we teach, and what the students ought to know, because he really cared about their careers, and so did I. And it's going to be a total loss on how we are going to proceed with that from now on. He was always full of jokes, too. And I still remember his first joke ever from probably 1992. He said, you know, there was some very eminent person who died, and then there was this other person who was just a bus driver in Sri Lanka. Okay, I don't know if you know the story here. And he said, you know, they died. And he says, well, he asked whoever the judge was, why does a bus driver get to go to heaven? Why not me? He said, well, when the bus driver is driving people around these mountainous roads, they're all praying. And that's why he gets to go. So I hope, it's a real shock to me to see Muhunthan leave. I hope he does well. Thank you.
Thank you all for this opportunity. I am Tevanayana, a friend and colleague of Muhunthan for nearly half a century. Many wonderful memories. Long story short, I met Muhunthan for the first time playing cricket together at a tender age of around 10. The first impression struck me as to who he would become. Watch and play was the name of the game. He would go on to play his life brilliantly and became a deep thinker. Picture this. This was Muhunthan, a calm and collected gentleman, a great friend from the very first day, kind-hearted, dedicated, disciplined, respectful of others' views, emotions always at bay, loved his family and friends greatly. We journeyed together through the high school, university, and even in our career profession. Muhunthan never hesitated to find a common ground, always a helping hand, a practical thinker. He contributed to the community and his profession greatly. We witnessed this again and again throughout the life. A rare breed, as in cricket, it comes always unannounced. It was hard. No one wanted to believe it upon hearing the news. Unbearable forever. But, my dear friend, your score, your contributions for the greater good of the profession and the community, your love of family and friends stands tall. Many would wish to emulate you. We have grown up together to take the journey of life as it presents to us. not always as we wish for. Our heart goes out for the family. Hard to say goodbye to you, my dear friend. May your soul attain moksha. Let us pray. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Chen Xu. I also go by Jackie. I'm a fourth-year PhD student of Dr. Jennifer Adams. And the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department of WSU has been my home, and I want to express a few words on behalf of New Voices. And I feel so warmly welcome. I feel when the first departmental welcome barbecue was held, and Dr. Muhunthan welcomed us with very kind smile and the words that encouraged us. And starting from there, and then after this, actually, sorry, I'm not prepared, but when he came, later I knew that actually my father is a hydrologist too, and he's one of my father's friend, Dr. Sivaplan at UIUC, also a renowned hydrologist, is a long childhood friendship with Dr. Muhunthan, and I feel so deeply with my professors, my colleagues, my friends, and supportive faculties and staffs. I really call here a home, and I really feel Pullman. I feel so welcome to be in Pullman. And also another thing I want to mention is that in the midst of this pandemic, I took my prelim exam, and without if it's with Dr. Muhunthan's and Tammy's support, I couldn't go through this the prelim at the right time, because it's really everything is pushed really tight, and I'm really thankful to his dedication to the department, his work, to all the students, and so I really want to express my deep appreciation to Dr. Muhunthan, and he will be deeply missed. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ranil Dhamapala. I came to Pullman as a grad student from Sri Lanka 20 years ago. Candice Claiborne was my advisor, and she introduced me to Dr. Muhunthan probably within a couple of days of arriving here. And over the course of time, we became friends. Our families met occasionally. And I believe at the time I arrived, he was one of 4 professors from Sri Lanka, and I was one of 3 students from Sri Lanka. But he was the one who kept the community together, organizing annual New Year celebrations in their homes, very often inviting people whom he had never met before, which is just kind of how things are done in Sri Lanka. You just ask people who know people to just come over for a meal. That's just how it is. And he was always game for something like that, and never withholding hospitality. He was a bright, positive, energetic influence in the lives of those who met him and worked with him. It was long after leaving WSU that my professional world intersected with his when Brian Lamb asked him if he needed somebody, or I think he was asking Brian if there was somebody from the air quality world who could be appointed to the CE advisory board. And somehow my name got recommended. I still don't know how and why. And Dr. Muhunthan said, yes. So ever since then, I've kind of had a reason to keep coming back to Pullman twice a year for board meetings, and I've thoroughly enjoyed working with that group, many of whom are represented here. I think I probably won't be speaking out of turn if I say that he will be deeply missed by us all. So we share your sorrow, and we're honored to be here, but we would wish it were under different circumstances.
Learned guests and friends, today I feel very much like an orphan in a storm, still reeling from the shock, personal anguish, and grief of my beloved nephew's premature loss, and say what I have to say to a learned gathering at WSU. To those of you who don't know me, I'm Professor Muhunthan's uncle from Melbourne, Australia. I must confess to you all that for me, Muhunthan was more my son than a nephew. Ever since he was a toddler, I've seen him grow into what he turned out to be later on in life, a gentle, a gifted scholar, modest, charming in many ways. As we all have a memorial meeting today in honor of my nephew, I have no doubt we would touch on many things he had done to shape and mold the learning environment at the Faculty of Geophysical Engineering at WSU. Learning, teaching, and scholarship have always been his lifelong passion. And I'm sure today many colleagues and friends of Professor Muhunthan in your gathering would be able to share their own memories of him. I prefer to share some personal and enduring memories of him within the short time given to me. Muhunthan grew up in a family and a country that valued education more than anything else in life. Parents of our generation were very keen to see their children have the best education and did know the real benefits that came out of it. My nephew availed himself of all the opportunities offered to him at school and made his mark at school early on and also later on at the university, scoring some of the most top-notch grades in all subjects. The period in which Muhunthan had his secondary and tertiary education was by no means one that could be termed safe or even secure. Many of you may not know that at this period, Sri Lanka, and especially the northern province of Sri Lanka, where Muhunthan grew up, was gripped by a cruel civil war that claimed many innocent lives and tore apart every facet of life. This was also a time when youth militancy made many parents hide their children in bunkers or seek refuge in safe sanctuaries. I must say that it was my nephew's love for learning and his innate calmness that made him face these challenges with courage and carve a niche for him as a leading scholar of national and international repute. Though his life was bound up with the academic world, he never kept aloof from his family members, his relatives, or friends. For me and all other family members, Muhunthan was a real tower of strength and was always there to lighten up our dark moments and stick up for us in times of stress and anxiety. We have often heard of professors who live in their own ivory towers far removed from reality. I dare say Professor Muhunthan was one who had his feet firmly planted on the ground and never hesitated to come down to the level of students and mentor and coach them in ways that were so special to him. He was the most down-to-earth, humble soul who could resonate with everyone whom he met. For his family, parents, for his siblings, relatives, and friends, the name Muhunthan holds a special resonance of sound that is charged both with deep meaning and symbolism. All the 9 letters in his name, from M to N, have their own special meanings. M is for melody, the song of life. U is for uncanny, the way you know what to do. H is for humble, human, and humorous. U is for unbreakable, your spirit is strong. N is for novel, don't get too complicated. T is for tender, loving nature. H is for happy, you wonderful laugh. A is for adventure, take a new one today. N is for narrator, tell many, many stories. Time doesn't permit me to speak more about the fond memories we have of Muhunthan. For all of us, he would live forever in our hearts and minds. God's joy of creation. Thornton Wilder, a celebrated American playwright and novelist, once observed that the highest tribute one can pay to the dead is not grief, but gratitude. It is in this spirit of gratitude that all members of Balasingham Muhunthan's family like to thank the WSU for organizing this function and celebrating his life and legacy in this fitting manner. Thank you. God bless our Muhunthan and WSU.
And I work for a company called Geoengineers, and we've hired a lot of Muhunthan students over the years. And so I just wanted to say thank you. We've heard a lot about Muhunthan's technical excellence and his research and his commitment to WSU, but I don't know of how many people realize the impact that he's had on just our economy in the field of engineering in the Pacific Northwest and Washington State in general. I first met Muhunthan about 20 years ago, and I sought him out because we'd hired a couple of Muhunthan students, and they were so impressive, technically sharp, very humble, very pragmatic, and a work ethic off the charts. And you can tell that some of him seems to have rubbed off on them. And so I went on my way 20 years ago to introduce myself to Muhunthan and to establish a relationship there. And we've hired several students, and just want everybody to know his students are running companies in the state of Washington. They are leading some of the biggest engineering projects in the state. And it's because of some of the teaching and the guidance that he provided. And from an industry perspective, I just want to say thank you very much, because he's helped the industry tremendously. I've also had the opportunity to have a ringside seat for Muhunthan's leadership and his style, being part of the CEE Department Advisory Board. And as a WSU alum and proud civil engineer from Sloan Halls, I'm very proud of what Muhunthan had helped create and establish and continue. The department has been very healthy and strong and growing and prosperous, and very much of that is because of Muhunthan. And I was always extremely impressed watching him through the challenges after the Great Recession and budget cuts, and even with the pandemic. There would never seem to be anything that seemed to frustrate him. It was always optimism, and there's a solution here, and it would just never seem to be that there was not a way out or a winnable solution. So his poise and his grace were just a tremendous example, and I will remember him, and I miss him, and thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ayumi. I think most of you already confused me with Priyanka, Dr. Muhunthan's daughter, but I'm Ayumi, Dr. Muhunthan's student. So I'm sorry, I'm not prepared for this, but I thought I should share something because he was like a father to me. So yeah. The very first time I met him, you wouldn't believe me, it was at the rec center on a treadmill. Imagine coming to USA and for the very first time meeting your department chair at the rec center, out of all the places. But I was a little skeptic at that time because I didn't expect him to be that humble. He was a very, very humble person. And yeah, ever since then, he guided me through the graduate program. So he is not my advisor, but he was always there to guide me. So I would be failing my duty if I don't mention this. He is the only professor in WSU. When you email him for an urgent matter, he's the only professor who calls you back immediately. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is. So I usually email professors to get an appointment, to schedule an appointment. Hey, professor, I have urgent matter to discuss. What would be a good time to meet tomorrow? And he calls me back right away. I'm like, okay, thank you, professor, for calling back. It was not that urgent, but yeah, thank you. I must say, on behalf of all the students of the department, I'm very shocked, and I feel profoundly sorry for his untimely death. But he will always be in our memories as a very kind-hearted, loving, and I don't have any more words to express, but yes, and he was very thorough. I remember how he went through my master's thesis. I had to correct it multiple times for it to be up to his standard, but I'm very grateful to him. I'm forever grateful to him for all the guidance he has given me and for all the students, and thank you so much.
Thank you again to everybody who has shared thoughts and memories. We would invite you to continue to share those memories as you enjoy some refreshments that we've been smelling the last 10 or 15 minutes, and share any thoughts with the family as well who is here. So thank you all for coming, and please enjoy the next several minutes informally.